Alright, so this is going to be part 3 to what if Deku had the true Longinus. So with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
Treat a bad bitch like she average. I'm a savage, little hoe, what you want do? I'm about cash if the wild fast. I'ma get that little nigga by any means.
Alright, so quick kind of update before we actually get into the kind of story, I guess. So here's my schedule for the next few episodes, or the next few videos that I'm actually going to be posting. So after this video, I'm actually going to do what if Deku had dark matter. And when I say dark matter, I mean the power from a certain magical index, the number 2 ranked Esper. So yeah, I did a poll on my community tab if you guys wanted it or not, and everyone, or the majority, said yes. So I'm gonna do that after this video, and then after that I'm gonna do a Black Bolt episode, and then after that I'll probably do Divine Dividing. And yeah, that's basically what I'm going to do for the next few episodes. So yeah, if you like this series and you want it to continue, make sure you leave a like on it. It lets me know that you guys want it, because there wasn't really too much feedback on this series in particular. So I just want to know if you guys want me to continue this one. So in the last video we left off with the kind of USJ attack. And so in this one, we're actually going into the kind of the sports festival arc, or the tournament arc. So in that week span between the attack and the sports festival, Deku actually does training with Azazel, right? And I would say that Azazel is not a hero in My Hero, right? He's not like a public figure, right? He's still the leader of the fallen angels at this point, and he's not known to people, right? He still is in he's still hidden from humanity, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So Deku would do this training with Azazel, trying to kind of master his fallen angel powers, which are pretty basic. They have light projection and the ability to fly, and they're able to use their wings as weapons and things like that, right? So it's not really too difficult, and they don't have a complicated, not complicated, but they don't have that system that the devils have, or even the angels have, like I said in previous parts. So as they're doing this kind of training, Deku would focus a lot on physical training, because he has his potential is a lot higher now that he is a fallen angel. And not only that, but as your physical strength improves, so does your magic. At least that's how I believe that's how it works in High School DxD. So as they're kind of doing this training, Azazel would ask Deku hey kid, why do you want to become a hero, right? And what he would tell Azazel is that ever since he was a young kid, he's always looked up to All Might, and because of that, he's always wanted to be a hero. So when he was told that he had no quirk, he was very sad, right? He was depressed. Even though he had this idea of becoming a hero, he just couldn't do it, but he still tried anyways. That's why he learned all the different stuff about heroes that he could do. So Azazel would see this, and he would have some respect for Deku in this instance, because he never really gave up his dream, and because of that, he was able to realize it later on when he unlocked the true Longinus. So we would get to the day of the sports festival, and they would be in that kind of I guess locker room. I don't know what you would call it, but that room before they get into the kind of arena, right? And Deku would just be sitting there kind of nervous about how or what's going to go on, and how well he's going to do in the sports festival. So as he's thinking this over and trying to figure out a strategy for it, this is when Todoroki would come up to Deku and basically say that, you might be strong, but there's no way I'm gonna lose to you. And he also says that, nothing's gonna stop me from becoming the number one hero and surpassing my father, right? And Deku would be kind of confused, but at the same time he's like, you know what, I know I'm gonna try my best and you're not gonna beat me, basically. And as this is going down, Bakugo would see this too, and he'd be kind of angry, but he wouldn't really interject. Or he would basically tell Todoroki, like, you're not gonna be the one to beat him, because that's gonna be me, right? So they all have this kind of rivalry between the three of them. And as this is going on, this is when they would be called out to the field, and they would have to do that kind of speech, right? And when I asked you guys whether or not he should be first place in the entry exams, everyone basically said yes, so that's what we're going to go with. And yeah, he is going to be the one doing the speech, and it's basically what you would typically think Deku would say. He would talk about how there's so many unique and powerful quirks there, and he wants everyone to try their best and things like that, right? And the crowd would cheer typically, and Izuku would be glad that he was able to do the speech, right? So after that was done, basically what would happen after that is that they would get ready, and they would go at the finish line, or not the finish line, the starting line. And when they say go, everyone would rush through, and they would get kind of stuck in the hallway. So Deku, he's not going to try to teleport because, or at least not yet, he's not going to teleport because he wants to show off his powers. So this is when he basically creates his wings out of his back, his two black wings. So what he would do is he would fly over the crowd that's like in that kind of tunnel, I guess, and he would go through that way, and so would the rest of class 1A. And this is when Deku would encounter the 0 pointer. So to impress everyone even more, this is when what's his name, Deku would actually use a elephant treasure, which if you don't remember, basically whatever it touches, the user is able to lift, right? So this is what Deku does. He uses the elephant treasure on the 0 pointer, and he basically lifts it up and kind of throws it away from the track or the obstacle course. And people seeing this would be very impressed, like, wow, this kid's like super strong. Does he have like what kind of quirk does he have? It doesn't really make sense, because he has wings and he has this like spear somehow, and then he was able to lift that robot. It just didn't make sense to the crowd, right? But they're all like super excited because he's a very powerful student. And after that was done, Deku, seeing no more like point of going on, he would just use his horse treasure, and he would just teleport to the finish line and get first place. And then in second place would be Todoroki, and third would be Bakugo, and then the rest would play out normally, just like in canon. So they would get to the cavalry battle, and Deku, seeing that he has a target on his head, right, he wouldn't have too many options because no one really wants to go with him because he has such a big target. And not only like that, and that's really the main point, is that he has the big target, so people don't really want to go with him even though he has that really strong quirk. So he would still have the same kind of team that he did normally with Mai and Uraraka and Tokoyami. So yeah, he would still have that kind of overall kind of team. So Deku's plan, it's pretty easy for him since he has the ability to fly and he has super strength, so it'd be really easy to lift everyone up. And the way that the wings kind of work in what's it called? A DXD, is that they don't really need to flap their wings to fly. They're just kind of there. But I don't know if that's like true. It might be just like a animation thing. They didn't want to keep on doing that animation of like them flapping their wings. But I don't know. It's kind of a weird detail, I guess. But yeah. So Uraraka would make each of them kind of weightless, so it'd be easier for Deku to kind of maneuver. So what would happen is that Deku would have, projectiles thrown at him from, bottom near the kind of from the surface, right? And what he would do is that he would use the Pearl Treasure in a combination with Tokiyami's Dark Shadow to kind of block and not reflect it, but redirect it into other people's directions. So he would get other teams like that. And Bakugo would try to, fly up there using his explosions to kind of take out Deku. But Deku has a major advantage because he has that spear. Basically, he would use the back end since he doesn't want to kill him, and kind of use it like a pull stick, and he would basically push Bakugo down to the ground. And yeah, he wouldn't get out because his teammates would catch him, but he'd be very annoyed, and Bakugo would see no way of really getting to Deku because he's very far away and it's very hard to get to him each time. So as he's thinking this is when Monoma would come and capture his his headband, and he would have to go after him. So basically it'd be the same people who would come into the final rounds or the tournament part, which would be Bakugo and Todoroki's team. So yeah. So in the first fight with Shinso, Deku would still get warned by Ojiro about how Shinso has some sort of like mind control power, so he'd be on his guard, and he would have this kind of restraint from like talking to him because of all the training that he's done with Azazel, and Azazel would tell him about different types of like fighting styles and what he should do in certain scenarios, right? So what would happen is that Shinso would try to egg on Deku, or he would try to like egg him on and get him to speak, but Deku would not. So the only option that Shinso would have left would try to push him out physically. But what Deku would do is that when Shinso's kind of rushing towards him, he would use his horse treasure to teleport him out of the ring, causing him to be disqualified. And Shinso, I think he'd be kind of depressed over this, seeing that it was his only chance to show off for the crowd and basically get into the hero course, but he wasn't able to do that. And Deku would be there to kind of console him and say like, even though you like were born with such what people would call, kind of villainous or kind of evil, you still tried your hardest to become, a hero, and you should be proud of that, right? And this would kind of cheer up Shinso a bit, and he would kind of lift his spirits, and Deku would be glad he was able to make someone like happy for a bit. So the other kind of fights would go the same. Things like Momo and what's it called? With the fight with Tokiyami. So we would get into the fight with Deku versus Todoroki, right? So Todoroki would try to use his eyes to kind of push out Deku and get him that way, right? But Deku would be able to dodge him pretty easily using his wings, and he'd be able to slice through the ice using the true Longinus. So basically he would tell something's up, and he would be like, Todoroki, I thought you were the son of Endeavor. How come you're not using your fire side? And Todoroki would be kind of angry at this, and he would try to use ice even more, and he would just scream out like, "I don't need that power. All I need is my ice side to beat you." And Deku would see that this was like a sensitive topic for Todoroki, so he'd be like, "All right." Yeah, he would be blunt with him and say, "You're never gonna beat me if you're only gonna use half your power," right? So what Deku would do is that he would extend his staff, or not his staff, his spear, and he would basically push Todoroki near outside the ring, but he wouldn't drop him, and basically say like, if you don't use, he would basically threaten him, and he would basically say, if you don't use 100% of your power, you're gonna lose, like threatening to like drop him there. So this is when Todoroki would grab onto the spear and kind of jump back into the arena, and he'd be very angry. So this would be the point where he uses his fire side, right? And this is when he'd be charging up that like shot, and Deku would be kind of excited to see how much power this, the Son of Endeavor would have. So as he charges the shot, and this big, light appears, and he shoots towards Deku. Deku would basically kind of spin his staff and kind of stab it into the ground. And as he's doing this, he would use his, I think it's called the Pearl Treasure. Yeah, he would use the Pearl Treasure, and this was basically splits the kind of fire that's coming at him, and anything that would come through would be blocked by the true Longinus. So after all this is done, and after the kind of explosion was done, everyone would be shocked seeing that Deku was untouched. And Todoroki, seeing this as well, would kind of lose he would lose confidence in himself and that kind of will to fight. So Deku would just use his horse treasure to teleport him out of the ring, and then Deku would be declared the winner of that match. So they would get to the finals, and it would be Bakugo versus Deku, right? And Bakugo would have seen the last match, and he's freaked out. He's like, he doesn't know what to do, because he just saw Todoroki do this massive fire attack, and Deku came out of it unharmed and not even singed on his clothes or anything like that. So he's like, why did he hide this from me so long? Does he really think I'm nothing to him? And he would kind of question himself, can I even beat him? He just went against Todoroki and didn't even get hit. So then, before they get into their match, Deku would basically come up to Bakugo and say Bakugo, we've been friends since I could remember, so you better not hold out on me, or yeah, basically. And he would see this as very cocky, and he would get really mad, but he wouldn't say anything. So when they get into the match, Bakugo would rush Deku, and Deku, he would have the reflexes to kind of dodge him, right? So Bakugo wouldn't see really be able to hit him. So this is when Deku would spawn light spears in the sky and kind of rain down onto Bakugo, because he wants to show off his kind of power to the audience, right? And Bakugo will be he can summon light projectiles too. What's the end of this power, right? And as he's saying this is when Deku would swing or kind of try to stab Bakugo, but obviously not trying to kill him, or yeah. So Bakugo would dodge the first hit, but then as he does this, what he would do is the spear would shrink, and it'd be on the ground or behind Bakugo, and Deku would then extend, or before that, Bakugo would be like, what's he doing? Like, he just let go of his spear. And he would like question Deku about this, and Deku would be like, just wait for it. And then this is when the kind of spear would extend and hit Bakugo in the back. And after like Bakugo would trip forward, Deku would get the spear back and hit Bakugo in the back with the end of the spear. Or not the end of the spear, the back of the spear, where it wouldn't like hurt him, because again, it's a lethal weapon. So Bakugo would get pretty injured in the back, and he would stumble forward a bit even more, nearly going off the edge of the arena, but he would use the explosion to kind of push himself back on his feet. And he's like seeing no other option, he tries to do a howitzer impact on Deku. But as this is going down, he would create a lot of smoke in the area, and then he would try a howitzer impact, and this would catch Deku off guard. And when the howitzer impact would land and all the smoke would be cleared, you would see Deku, and what would happen was that he covered himself using his wings to block the kind of attack. So after this was done, Deku would hit Bakugo with the end of the back side of his spear while extending it, and he would basically slam him into the wall of the arena, and this would get Bakugo out. So Deku at this point, he's very I think at this point that kind of power is somewhat going to his head a little bit. He's like very confident, or nearly, he still has that kind of personality of Deku back then, but because he unlocked the true Longinus later in life, he still has that kind of upbringing and that kind of life before, but he's kind of getting warped a little bit because he's gotten so much power in such a short period of time, and he has like this he knows like the origins of his power, which is basically the will of the God of the Bible. So he's kind of going on this kind of power trip, right? So he's getting a little bit more arrogant, or not arrogant, but a little bit more cocky. So yeah, and he's becoming a little bit more ruthless in the ways that he like fights. But yeah, after the fight, he'd be declared the winner, and All Might would be there to kind of give the rewards or awards to the final three. So he would give Deku first place, since he got first place, right? And he would praise Deku for using all of his like powers, and use them in different scenarios and use them all in different ways, right? And then he would go to Bakugo and said that if you were fighting any other opponent, that final attack that you did would have surely gotten anyone, right? It was a very clever attack, and you should be proud that he got to second place. And then he would go to Todoroki and basically say like, Todoroki, you are a very powerful student, and your quirk is very powerful, but you gotta realize that you need to use more than just half of your power. If you want to become the number one, you gotta use all of it, right? So Todoroki and Bakugo would be kind of upset because they didn't win and they lost to Deku. So I want to end it here, and then in the next part we'll get to the Stain fight and things like that. So if you guys want more of this series, just remember to leave a like. And yeah, with that being said, this is going to be the end of the video. So yeah.